So again, we just wanted to take a moment to have a moment of silence to honor those lost today. As you are aware, is September 11th, and we do just want to take a moment today to honor those lives lost in the September 11th bombing at the World Trade Center. So just maybe 30-second kind of moment of silence. Also today, we all are aware of the tragic and terrible situation that occurred at Appalachian High School in Georgia. And our hearts go out to all of the families and children affected by this, and to the entire state as they grapple with this horrible situation. So today, I'm hoping we can entertain another 30-second moment of silence for the lives lost in the struggle they're going through.
Thank you all. Moving on, are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the August 28th minutes. So, second? Yeah. Any discussion? All right, then we'll have to vote. Jaden, aye. Brian,
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
Jennifer.
Aye.
Dana.
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Okay. And Bill.
Aye.
No, no. Oh, and we is not.
No, sorry.
All right. Public participation. So the members of the Tolland Board of Education welcome the members of the public to share their thoughts and ideas at the time. When appropriate to do so, members of the board and the administration may respond to comments during points of information. However, in consideration of those in attendance and in an effort to proceed in a timely manner, follow-up discussions may need to take place out of the meeting setting. We will alternate between people in the room and those online. Online, please raise your Zoom hand if you're in the room. Raise your hand, step up to the mic. And you will be called upon. As always, please start with your name and your address for the minutes. Going twice. Nobody in the room. Yes, I like to pretend like we have a crowd. All right. Moving on. Correspondence.
Nothing to report for the last 2 weeks.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Information. Would anybody from the board like to speak?
I'll see something. That's okay.
Yeah, please.
Just fantastic first week and change of school. was able to participate in 3 back to school, welcomings for students, and all the educators and the administration and the teachers did a fantastic job welcoming the students back to school, and successful for a week and a half. Looking forward to a great school year, but fantastic week.
Anybody else? Right. Student representatives, welcome back.
Thank you. Back, year 3. Sarah couldn't be here tonight. She's a volleyball game. So go Sarah. Hope they win. I don't know if it ended. Hope they win. Anyways, pretty short agenda today. So picture day was on Monday. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors took their pictures for the yearbook, and seniors took their pictures for the school ID. Seniors have already had their senior photos taken either last May or a few weeks ago when school started. Additionally, on the first day of school was senior sunrise. It was very cute. I did not go because I was tired, so I left it. But I heard it was a lot of fun and the pictures looked really cute. The senior class officers are currently designing the class shirts, and those will be available in a few months. And most, if not all, clubs start up next week. So if you are in a club, if you are looking to join a club, they will probably be starting next week, and you'll be notified on the morning announcements. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
I think you
All
got it.
right,
Welcome back.
thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, committee and liaison reports, policy.
Nothing for some class.
All right, communication.
I don't have anything at this time. Do you have anything, Jen?
No, I think I do PTO once a month.
Yeah. I'm good.
Curriculum.
Nothing to report.
Negotiation.
Nothing to report.
Can I ask a question? When is the next negotiation?
Maybe the next one is secretary start to it.
It's,
Do you know when?
off the top of my head, no. I can get that.
More so curious, it's no, trust me, it's okay.
Usually
The
it's the end of
negotiation.
the year.
No kidding.
In the spring.
All right. FFC,
Budget,
I did.
I do have some, no, just a quick plug, for everybody that's attending next week. We're looking to approve our dates for next year in the meeting, so just a reminder, if you have any issues with the dates we walked through and posted last meeting, Jen would like me to get those completed quickly, so any qualms, I need to reach out to her no later than like very early next week with issues with to get that shifted, because we gotta get that approved next week, so that'd be great.
All right. All right, I have no chairperson's report, so we will move on. Dr. Willett, superintendent's item K1, update on overnight field trips.
Okay, so, as was determined some time ago, I can't remember exactly when, the Board of Ed gets an update on the overnight field trips that we would be engaging in the near future or in the year or near future. And so the next couple of field trips that'll be coming up this year, and then what I try to do is when they come through my office and fill out the paperwork for approval, that's when I bring them here. So if somebody decides to do a field trip in December, you'll notice that, we may be looking at a December field trip that's you're seeing, after you've already seen ones that are happening after it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'll bring them to you when they come to me. So if somebody, wants one, you may see that these are in February, May, and August, because these are what I have right now, but others may come and they may be sooner in the year than this. So it's really more of a when they come through my office kind of thing than it is temporally, exactly when they fall. So it's the Washington trip for February, the DECA Power trip, which is in May, and then the Hershey Park PA trip, which is in August of 2024. One is the music group with Noah, one is Lynn Bridge, the DECA Business Group, as you can see there. And then one is the standard eighth grade Washington DC trip. I think that's supposed to say 20.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
was,
it's-
they don't seem right.
I guess that would be, that'd be a neat trick, really. The whole, what is that movie, National Treasure? Would be some
Yes.
kind of like,
Yeah,
kind of spin. So that should be 2025 there, but in any case, these are the ones that we have on the radar now, and I'll bring you other ones as they are processed fully.
Right, any comments or questions? Brian, good job. Now we know you're awake and everybody error
But that was
proofing
just
it.
this year's stuff.
yeah, yes.
Any other comments? All right, Dr. Willett, item K2, mandatory training for Board of Education members.
Okay, so as you know, well, you may not know, but the state of Connecticut decided that board members would need to have training. And so there is a, you know, I'll pull it up for you. There is now a provision in the state law legal code that talks about mandatory training for boards of ed under Public Act 23-167, which really required the State Department of Education to offer annual training. It looks like the State Department of Education in Connecticut General Statute 10-5F directed the group to develop this training program that ultimately got developed by CABE, as far as I can tell. And so it's the Ready, Go, Govern program. I think they call it Ready, Set, Govern. All right. So any individual who is elected to a Board of Ed for the first time on or after July 1st should complete the CSD training. The CSD specific training on a state site is not available, but the Ready, Set, Govern one is in the CABE site under that link, Ready, Set, Govern. I did check with Shipwin on this. There is no ramification for not fulfilling the requirement. So you're not going to be kicked off a board, you're not going to be chased down and arrested, nothing will happen that is, you know, terrible. But that provision is there to kind of encourage board members to you know, engage with some of it. The CABE cost is about $10,000 a year, and so that covers some of the things you get from CABE and training. So that that's available to you. Those trainings are available to you by registering through that link. What I've talked to Chairperson Holt about was whether we wanted to, what we want to do with the user IDs with respect to CABE, and we will determine that when we're ready, when you're ready. But you'll need a user ID to sign in, and once you have that, you could actually sign in and view some of the ones that are saved, so that you can watch the videos that of you know, the instruction that was given in the past. You just have to pop in, enter the password, seek it, and then register, and then you can see the former trainings as well, all throughout the year, as well as register for the actual live ones coming up. And they usually make a video of everything that they do, so you're not going to miss anything if you can't get to the 12:30 or 2 o'clock session, that type of thing. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention because it is one of the requirements of the state, but again, no one's coming for you if you don't get that done.
There is a rumor they'll make you wear Jets clothing.
Right.
For an unusual contingency.
Brian and I are in charge now.
Yes.
Any question?
Yeah, so my only confusing part, because I saw that piece about there does not appear to be a ramification. What's the mandatory part? Is the mandatory part the piece that municipalities have to offer this to board members, or is it that new board members have to attend? That's where I'm.
Well, there's two. Public Act 23-167 says the Connecticut State Department of Ed must provide it.
Gotcha.
And then General Statute Section 10-521.8C is the statute that says that first-time elected board members should complete it.
Gotcha.
So it's two different ones that basically say state must provide and you must take.
Gotcha.
And just to know, you know, according to the statute, it's only those elected after July 1, 2023 that have to.
Yeah.
Obviously, what's that?
Does it just feel longer than like a year? How long?
Yeah.
You really are not kids.
I think yoga's one of them,
Yeah.
you know, I think there's rejuvenation session.
Well, 10 months.
I heard,
Sounds good.
Looking forward to 10 months.
maybe Kripalu can offer some.
Yeah.
So this, I think I have a login with Cave because I get all their newsletters and I use Cave often. And so I could still, as a 3-year
Yes.
board member, go watch and register for the, okay,
And
that's pretty neat.
And you know, it should.
Right.
It's recommended. I haven't taken this one yet, but I did take a couple of the CABE new board member classes eons ago, and then some of the additional training that they provide and offer, and there's good information, and there's good knowledge. So if you're curious, if you want to know more about what we're doing and why we're doing it in the statutes, I recommend doing it. To Dr. Willett's point, for those that are in, that after July 1st, 2023, the state is really still trying to figure out what that exactly means. So they're saying you have to do it, but they haven't defined what it is or what happens if you don't do it.
Understood.
But again, if you don't have the password or if you need to get a password, that's what Dr. Willett and I are trying to figure out how exactly we want to do that. So just let us know. We'll make sure that's available. Any other questions?
Yeah, Tony,
But no.
I just want to make sure, because I heard a couple times it said that we have to take it, and then the statute says we should take it. Those are two different directives. Is it should take it or have to take it?
Dr. Willett, you have clarification?
Well, under 10.5218C, the terminology that they have used is requires first-time board members to complete the prescribed training. So I'm guessing that they are requiring it, but again, there's no real teeth to it.
But it says, but no later than 1 year after assuming office.
Yeah, but they, again, they're not chasing anyone down for it. So, and it is first times. So if it wouldn't, sorry, it would. I think, frankly, it's just, they're asking you to make a good faith effort to do it because they're not really going to do anything negative. And I really confirm that with Shipman. They
Okay.
confirm.
Yeah, and you're gonna let us know when we have usernames and passwords that we can use?
Yeah, I'll take that action. We'll get that for you.
Okay.
Good.
No, so then how am I connected? Why am I getting all sorts of Cape stuff?
I get about 10 paid emails a week.
So there's two things. As a member, when you got elected,
Yeah.
your name went into this is the Board of Education for Tolland, Connecticut. So you show up on CABE's email, their distribution list, thank you. As a member, you're going to get the emails, you're gonna get the class offerings, you're gonna get a newsletter, all of those things. That's
You have to log
independent.
in.
Well, that's independent of the login and password.
You might have one and not know it.
Gotcha.
Used to be that when I got elected, the first time there was one login that changed every year that was just given, that password was given to all of them.
Gotcha.
That may still be the same. What we're looking at is, has that changed or has it been? Gotcha, just gotta figure that out.
No problem. Thank you.
But you are, for all intents and purposes, a CABE member and user.
Right.
You just didn't know it. It was.
Sorry, I know, sorry.
Any other comments? All right. Dr. Willett. The Kerma spelled with a C.
Right, that's right. Not Kermit,
Right,
not Kermit the Frog, but Kerma.
that would be a couple of my emails.
And just to make everybody know, the Kerma is Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Agency.
There we go.
It came up, that's what it stands for. It is a provider of risk management and insurance, which some of you know. So Kerma has a equity distribution practice that at the end of each year, they review the trends and everything for everyone in the collective. Van Kerma is a large collective, kind of like each of is. There's a lot of municipalities and districts all in it. So they'll review it and then they give I mean, I like to think it's like a dividend or something, but it's really not. They give you a equity, they call it an equity adjustment, and they provide you this. Sometimes if you've had some good trending, they'll provide every district and municipality some money back. So Tolland got $19,000 back this year, and the Board of Ed's cut of the 19,000 is $10,481. So in the past, this has been absorbed into various places, usually into salaries or things like that, but or overtime, you know, things like that, subs. But the adjustment this year was mentioned at the town council meeting, and so I figured we'd also want to talk about it here. And see what the board felt about what the board felt it would like to do. Another thing, just for the time being, the amount that 10,000 was put in capital as a holder for us. So I think that was the action the council took, because they did their thing, and then the council kind of put it in a capital account for the board. So it's there. I did see if it could be used for ERF, and I was told that it cannot. Because of the way that it's coming in as revenue. It's not something that, you know, at the end of the year is rolled over. So it can't be put in our ERF, but it can be used right now. The town did put it in capital to hold it for us. And so that item is brought to the board for you to decide or talk about, or give me direction about how you'd like me to handle that.
Comments? Yeah.
Yeah, we did FFC agenda prep this morning with Dr. Willett. So this is an agenda item that we are going to talk about in FFC going forward. So if we don't want to spend a ton of time here, we can talk about the impact of it at FFC and bring it back to the board if you want as well.
I like that.
I do like that. So it's only a placeholder for capital, but we still have flexibility. Is that what I'm understanding? Or is
Yeah,
it-
we have some. I would just have to go
capital?
back to the town and say, hey, we'd like to change this. And then they'll just change the fund that it's in and officially do that.
Do you have any options that you're considering at this time, or do you wanna wait and go through that at FFC before that comes to the board?
I have some scenarios in mind, but given FFC is going to grapple, kind of dig in, I'll wait for FFC on that one.
When's the next meeting? Next week?
Next week.
Oh, okay.
That way, you can vet it there and bring it back up here if there's anything that needs to be.
So eventually, So eventually we'll have a full discussion as a board with this topic, but even breaking it down to FFC, I'm in favor of that. I'd be in favor.
It's not going away, so you have some time.
Let's take you a seat.
I wish we could do some lights and. And now, ladies and gentlemen.
Music as he arrives.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had, like Walt had mentioned, I had spoke to him this morning about something else. I was talking to him about this line item, and yeah, my hope was that it would be able to be put into the,
Yeah.
yes, the ERM, just because we have that 400,
Yeah.
plus thousand for the, computers coming up, so, for next year, but it's a shame we can't put it in there, but,
Well, no, but maybe there are options that can get to that same result.
yeah,
If we can identify what we would have spent that on and then figure out how we get that there.
yeah,
And that's really why I like the idea of kicking it over to committee.
yeah.
To brainstorm exactly those ideas that you have there and then bring some solutions back up to the board that we can put in.
Fun you, Dan.
No pressure. So then you think we'll be able to get it on the next agenda?
It already very hot and cold.
Anybody?
We're not on the share speeds.
Yeah, sorry.
Uh-huh.
This is probably like old news, but are people getting new computers next year? Or like some people getting new computers next year? Or what was the thing you said about like the money going towards computers?
Well, originally in the original budget, we had put together, we were getting, part of the funding. for the computers, but then with all the cuts, they got axed down to zero, so.
Yeah, okay,
We're trying to provide the funding for next year.
that would be
So
good,
that's, the hope, but you know,
yeah. Okay, sorry.
no, anytime.
Anybody else? Yeah.
How do they distribute, like, how do they determine, like, Tolland's 19,000, and then how much goes to the town versus the town? Is it the same equation that we get when we get our funds twice a year, similar to that, or?
It's, yeah, I would have to ask Lisa on that one. I don't know how they split that. It goes into the town first. I know how they do that with a couple of things. Usually it's 91-9. 91% to us, 9 to them, based on, that's E-chip, because that's our composition of E-chip. So for Kerma, I don't know what the exact ratio is, but I can ask.
Maybe we can
Yeah, let's
find
go
out for
60.
FFC, because I think,
Yeah. I mean, I've never, it's a great question. I've never even really thought about it, because they do the splitting of that and just
Right.
give us the.
Anybody else? Thank you, Dr. Willett and Dan, appreciate it. Looking forward to hearing what comes out of committee. And then the exciting one, Dr. Willett, K4, the opening of the schools.
Yes, so opening of schools, I think, went quite well. I think, we just, as you know, it's a very exciting time for everyone, and, there's always 100 things going on at once that are new things, transportation and kids getting on buses and trying to find the right bus, and, parents being ready, to receive them at the end of the day with big smiles, and the kids I saw one group come off, I think, all dressed in. Did you see that? There was one bus, everybody dressed in a dinosaur. There's something, it's really, and those are the other first days, but it's just so funny and so fun and so wonderful to watch the kids. I did make it around to each school at some point in the day, and they all were doing an amazing job. I created a video that I did post of families and a teacher talking about the first day, so I linked that for you. And I think things have started off great. We have a lot of initiatives. We're doing a lot of things that are new. One of them is I will be announcing fire drills, lockdowns and everything in the bulletin. So some of those were coming up in the first 2 weeks. And so some people noticed, it's announcing those in the bulletin now. And yes, we are. And that was what the District Safety and Security Committee decided. And it was driven by State Police Public Safety and their feedback on that. So there's a lot of really great stuff. It's all in that bulletin, and the video is a pretty good catch of a lot of the things that went on that first day, especially K5. So certain transportation hiccups we can always expect, but overall I think it's great. Yeah, you want to see? All right. And then whatever. How did it go for you?
Oh, it went good.
Not to put you on the spot, sorry.
No, my classes are good. They're
Well, I
pretty
get it, great.
easy, so we love that. But no, I think things went good, the first day, people have been saying like, school, but it's good. No like glaring issues or anything, so
How are those pesky freshmen?
annoying. No, they're good. I haven't seen a lot of them, so, but I think everyone's doing pretty well.
So Pete, if you don't mind me asking, from your perspective, how did it open up?
I know from my perspective, myself and my staff put a ton of hours in the summer. We were pretty much ready for everything. Construction projects had wrapped up, couple punch list things at TIS, but we were able to wrap those up for the week that the teachers were there before the kids showed up. So I think it went pretty well. I mean, obviously you get a few things the first day of school. The teachers could ask us to put the pencil sharpener on the wall when they leave in June instead of when they end up coming back. But by and large, I thought it went very, very well.
Awesome, thank you.
And for those of you who don't know, pencils are these things made of lead with little erasers on the end that we used to use 100 years ago. Pete and I were in school. So if you're ready,
I'm ready.
okay.
although the first day of school brings a lot of jitters for both students and staff, the first day of school brings a lot of excitement. Excitement for new classes and seeing old friends or colleagues that you haven't seen all summer. This first day allows us like a reset button from the year before and a look ahead at sports and clubs and dances and field trips.
Those who want to click on the bulletin, you can see it more smoothly because it's copy on internet connection here. But, so happy first day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Discussion.
Just, I just wanted to mention too, I think the weather actually for the first school day was actually about as good as it could have been. It was like 76 outside, so,
Perfect.
we're not stuck in that back to school heat wave that sometimes you see, so.
Yeah, that was a nice week.
Great point. Anybody else? Right. Moving on, Dr. Willett, item L1, monthly financial report. Dan's favorite part.
It is, Tim. So, as you know, every month, the first meeting of the month, we do our monthly financial report. This is the beginning of the year, so, our monthly financial report is always for the previous month. This would be for August. I'll try to keep it succinct and just go over the big things because, as you know, we're really only 2 months into the year, July and August, so there's not going to be a tremendous amount spent yet. There's encumbrances we're still working on and so on. The letter defines more or less where we're at, the percentage, and where the fluctuations are, even though there's not that many. The FFC committee always takes a deeper dive on this, and so that's coming up next week. So it's about 2.89%, about 1.2 million right now that is not encumbered or spent. The salary line is what you'd expect right now. Same thing for substitutes, although it's encumbered. Overtime, we really don't have that much right now, so of course, we're gonna be under. Stipends, the one thing typically that people's eyes are drawn to at the beginning of every year is the stipends, code 150, and it's over budget by, by that 7,191. Now, typically what happens with that is when we start the year, these lines, stipends and the athletic stipends and the clubs, we haven't collected the money. So we actually make the encumbrance and expenditure, but we haven't collected all the funds for that. And that happens cyclically. Every time we are in a fall season or a spring season, as we get to the end of the year, that line will eventually balance out a bit, but it's going to be negative because sports here, for instance, the pay to participate, that's a significant portion of the budget. So that'll run negative before we collect all the money, and you'll see that fluctuate, but it's usually going to be, negative as we collect it. There's also our standard stipends that are in there too for other things that are listed in the contract. So I think it's Article 38 for teachers, but you'll see some things. When there's a drama play or production, there's a stipend for that. There's stipends that are contractually set up in that kind of, in there. So that also is where a lot of these are paying out of. And that'll continue to go through as we go through the year. That'll post against this account. So other things, there really isn't that big of a fluctuation here for most of this stuff. I guess rather than going through every line, which I could do, unders and overs, if you have any questions, I'll take it. If I can't answer it directly, I'll get you the answer. And at an FFC, again, plug, they're going to go into it in greater detail. So
Questions? Dr. Will, I just have one, and it's just curiosity's sake, but I'm looking at some of these line items that are relatively small, like films and video supply or special education equipment that, are just a few $100s, but it looks like we haven't expended any of that yet. My assumption is those budgets were created with plans in place. Is it just that we haven't gotten the opportunity to procure those things? Or...
Yes, no, that's definitely it. Plus, we now have ordering. Ordering has to be done differently now because we don't have the liaisons, human leaders, grade leaders. So people are processing orders probably a little slower even than they were before. They'll come in through our office and we process the orders and then work it through efficiency. So part of it may be that because we're processing orders, and getting used to a new way of doing it. The other part of it is that they don't need everything up front, and they'll be ordering things as the year progresses. Some things you don't want sitting around.
Yeah.
So my eyes are, what's posted there is also available for people in the agenda. You can blow it up. I was going to make a comment. My eyes have a hard time looking at that. So you can blow it up on your screens at home, but you can also open the agenda and blow it up. But the reason I was saying that is I can't see the specific line, but for instance, art, you're not going to get all your clay up front or it'll dry. Other things, you're not going to necessarily want paper sitting around all the time because animals get into, like you buy a certain amount, and you use it, and then you sometimes order an additional amount as time goes on. I know clay is a good example of that because it dries, I believe.
And just Candace as an aside, maybe later in the year as things slow down, I am interested in learning a bit more about any pain we suffer trying to go over to this new procurement and, that kind of thing. Like, not critical here, some general labor. Any other comments? All right, Dr. Willett, L2 capital budget requests.
All right, so annually at this time, we review the capital budget request for the Board of Education. And it looks like, yes, let me just throw it in there. You should have a link to it. It should also be in the agenda, but I'm not seeing it on the Google thing. So let me just throw it in. We do have Pete Stava with us here tonight. Thank you very much, Mr. Stava, for coming. He's going to help us with any questions that you might have about it as I load that up. a reminder that we go through the capital process every year on an almost continuous cycle, because as soon as it's over, there's always something. So we began looking at it again right out, right as soon as the town process is finished. We're usually looking at it at the spring point. Then we have meetings in the summer and in August. Mr. Stava helps us obviously a tremendous amount. And so once we get things in order in August, we will put it in front of the FFC. Typically in August, the FFC takes a look at it. Then it moves up to the Board of Ed for September. The goal is to have 2 readings for September, for the first meeting in September and the second meeting in September. And then by the end of the second meeting in September, we need you to give me authorization to move this request over to the town manager. So any changes you want to be made, we would want to highlight whatever it is you want to drop or pick up between now and the end of the, meeting in September, the second meeting in September, which is, I think, what do we have, 25th. The other thing to know is typically they are due by the beginning of October, the first week in October. So that's why we have this timeline. It's why it's good to have the reads, come on now, have your first, have your second. It's also why we looked at it in August in FFC, so we could, walk up the process that way. So to give you a kind of flyover, these are linked so that if you click on them, and it should be the same thing for the PDF available to people at home. If you click on them, they're going to bring you to an actual description of the item and exactly what it is, what it does, what the benefits are, the year that it was for. You'll notice that Mr. Stava, as our facilities director, is the person submitting virtually all of them, because that's his bailiwick and he does such a great job. Rare to have it be anyone else. So if you can see that each one of these has a detailed breakout of all of the aspects of it that you would need to know, from where it's installed to how much it costs and so on. This table summarizes it. It summarizes the amount that it costs, the year that it's being requested for, and its general priority rating. When I hand it over to the town, I just noticed they sent out the town manager sent me a letter, as he does every year. And I noticed there's a slight difference there. Now they want things prioritized from 1 to 5. 1 is high priority and 5 is low. So I'll change the words into, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's basically the same thing, like, critical and high are 1, and then, 2 is going to be your medium and so on. So that's roughly where that falls. And just as an asterisk, and then you can ask anything you want. The Board of Ed dashboard has a spreadsheet that once you have approved what's going up the chain, I publish that spreadsheet publicly. But I usually will not publish the spreadsheet publicly until you have decided what's actually going to be in it. So you'll notice on the dashboard, I mean, anyone could get it if they really ask for it or want it. It's just that it's not final. And it really hasn't gone through any of the iterations of what the town's going to do to it. So once you are okay, let us know you're okay with this, or make adjustments. I'll update that spreadsheet accordingly. And then throughout the next couple of months through December and January, as we enter the budget season, I will then update it with what the town does to it. Because the town may or may not accept what you're asking for as well. So that's the general rundown. And so Pete is here, Mr. Staub is here. Do you have any questions that we can help with?
I have a couple quick ones, or hopefully. When I click on the district fire doors, it just says that it's in your trash. All the other ones that seem to be able to open, but that one was not opening for me.
Oh,
So there's no previous files and owner's trash.
well,
District fire doors?
Yes,
So probably just use.
yes,
yeah, that's interesting. I'll get it out of the trash. It looks like this. So I just loaded it up. But I will go fishing in the trash for that, because I have no idea why that's in the trash. I'm going to, here, let me try to do something quick. So I get to share.
and the other thing, you said that the town manager sent your thing for 1 through 5, is that 1 through 5 per year?
No, it's like, instead of high, critical high, it's 1. It's,
Oh, okay, I got you, okay, not just 5 on the whole list, okay, I misunderstood.
It's not ranking.
Yes,
right.
okay. And so the other question I have, so I'm just looking at, I'm just, this is my first year, for this cycle, so I'm just looking at the 2026 list here. It barely gets to, not even barely $300,000 here worth of monetary expense or requests versus say 2027. We have over $3.1 million, and then 2028 is 40,000. Are these accumulative? So there's other things last year that were put on for 2026 as well, and then these are additional
These are,
2026
these,
items?
yeah, the way to look at
So
it
we
is,
don't know the whole total, we don't have, it's on a separate spreadsheet, I assume.
well,
correct?
yes, it's on the one on the dashboard.
Okay.
Because what you are approving
Yeah,
is this stuff.
in addition to what's already been. approved
Right,
by
right,
past
and
boards.
to help you understand, to help articulate what you are approving for, this cycle for 2025 through 2030 in the year 2024.
Yes,
This table is what you're approving to be added, and that sheet that you have that'll eventually be released when you make your final determination,
yes,
that's where all these go. Then you'll see the complete totals across everything and all years and everything that's in there. It's actually there now. I actually plopped everything in there,
okay,
but I don't, like I said, that spreadsheet, I don't publish that until, because it's not final. You haven't made any final decisions, so I
Yes.
don't want any misunderstandings about that. So I hold that one as something you guys have, and then between these two things, you'll have the full picture.
no,
And you have it now, but
I guess the other follow-up to that, thank you for understanding that. The other follow-up I have, are these ever approved, disapproved, axed, postponed 8 years, or just not even, they don't wanna do the district fire doors?
They definitely-
All of the above.
yeah, all of that, it happens.
Yeah.
That's why when you look at that spreadsheet, anything that is not the color blue is pretty much in place and you can see where it is.
Yes,
But plenty of things get ejected, moved over to other funding. That's part of the entire process that plays out over the next few months.
okay,
So you guys will say what you want to go over, and then that is a whole nother process over there where they say yes or no, or, where we'll fund it or where we won't. And then they create bonds usually, they'll bond for certain items, or they'll find funding for certain items. That's all on top side.
now is this the town manager himself in his office determining what is best, or is
Well-
this done by the town council?
Yeah.
Item by item, town council will look these fire doors. No, we're not doing that. We're not gonna ask the town payers and put it into the new budget for 112,945.
Once you instruct me to hand this over to the town manager,
Yes,
then he takes it to the council. He does have some say in things, but it's ultimately the council that decides the capital budget in its total form.
okay,
And occasionally, Brian, they'll move things depending on funding availability. If they've got a bond they're putting together and they have X number of dollars of excess, they may pull something that we have for 2027 up to fit within it. There have been times when they've come back and asked for further information on some of our items or questions different emails. There are also times that the council has pulled things forward that we weren't ready to have done, and we've gone back and said, no, we're gonna kick those. You'll see there are projects on there that are pushed down to, 2028, 2029, saying they need to be on here, they need to be tracked. They're just not a priority even for us yet. So
Yeah.
we just keep moving those down on that list. But it is very fluid, which is why one of the reasons a couple of years ago, it used to be, we'd come to this point, we'd approve it, we'd take it over to the council, and then we would loosely pay attention until, the council came back and said, this is what we're going to implement. A couple of years ago, FFC started taking a more active role, and that's why there's multiple meetings throughout the year to track, to watch, to make sure we're coordinating with Pete and his team to make sure that what's here all the way through the process articulates our need, so the council can make the most informed decision.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say before we jump into everything here, but the conversation started at the August FFC, so while we did start that conversation, it wasn't a unanimous vote to even bring capital budget to this conversation at this point yet, but we ended up getting the budget moved from FFC to the board, just because we kept everything on here, not everybody wanted everything on here, so we just say, go read the FFC minutes, if you wanna see that conversation about Dr. Willett walking through the capital budget request. You did a very good job, thank you, but we missed you, so any input that you have would be great. But I'm like glad that we got it moved here, but we kept everything on here. I think personally, just because we wanna make sure that the whole board is making the decision on what gets cut versus cutting something in FFC. And you guys not even seeing it get to this level unless you're really into always reading FFC minutes and stuff, but if you were, wanted to make that side note, so like. Whatever we reviewed in FFC, that's exactly what we reviewed, and then we figured this is first read, and then. Go back and look at those minutes, and then second approval will be next meeting, so just want to level set a little bit there, because I know we noted that. It started, there was a previous discussion about this, but the previous discussion is out there if you're interested, and nothing has been cut from that, so. Just heads up.
Thank you for that heads up, Dean. I actually have a question now based on that. When you say that you left everything on there, are you talking about just what we're reviewing tonight as new ads, or did you guys go through the entire spreadsheet?
No, just new ads.
Just new ads. Okay, so nothing at this point is going to be moved around from the entire spreadsheet.
Well, you really, so to be clear, that entire spreadsheet, the only thing you can move around is, the decision you're really making here is the blue links. The rest of that spreadsheet is what has been determined by the council.
Right, so none of that.
So that you don't really have an impact on any of that piece other than its information.
Great.
But and in some impact, we might have, like, Mr. Stava might, get a grant for security and things like that, which may change some of the numbers. But what you have direct authority over right now is what you ask the town for. And what you're asking the town for at the moment, potentially could be what's in blue on that sheet in that table. That's right, as Mr. Sheridan saying, that FSC didn't make final determinations, they just moved it up to the board level. And that's generally how that kind of flows, so.
Grants are a good example of that because, if I put something in fiscal year 28, I get a grant next month that says I have a year to spend it, then I have to come back and say, okay, they're gonna fund this at 50%. So we'll reduce our portion. And in most cases, the council and the board are gonna wanna jump on that, so, those things do pop up. Or if there's a legal change or statutory law changes, where I might have to push up something too. But those are really the only times that we change that, or if the town is gonna add stuff to bond into a certain year to make it bond. Like back in 2016, we had the $9.8 million bond then for that year in 2016. And that was a townwide super bond. So if they're trying to do those groupings, you may see things change in years, but they're approved. They just may change when they happen. And then obviously it's not a static list. So we're completing things every year, every month. So you'll see things start to drop off, and just want to be transparent on that. I worked on that list with Walt just to show you everything that's been done, too, as well.
So, apologies, I think I've fixed some of it if you.
No, okay, the fire door.
If you try, I don't, actually on that agenda, it won't, but you should be able to get that.
All right.
We'll replace that agenda too.
Are our 2024 projects complete? Then?
All except a portion of the man trap and TIS,
So I was
where
gonna ask
I have to have an engineered metal member because I have to cut an opening that's
Okay.
structural to fit that door in. It just took a little bit longer to get the engineer.
And then we have TMS's man trap on for 2025.
That is correct, as well as 5 or 6 other projects that would occur for this coming summer.
So I was just gonna ask that, so that would
Correct.
be a summer project.
Most of those projects you cannot do during the school year that's listed, so.
Okay, what about the what you still need to do at TIS? Are you gonna be able to do?
My goal is to finish that before Thanksgiving.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's my goal.
then if you already went through this in FFC, I'll just look at the minutes. I was just gonna see if, we wanted Pete to tell us, maybe his input on what got ranked here priority wise, as critical, higher, medium. But again, if you've already had that discussion, I'll just go look at the minutes.
Well, and Walt did a great job, but I like always to hear from, not that it's gonna be different, but happy to hear input as well.
Anything you
'cause-
wanna highlight, Pete, from those?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we talk about things, and there's some new additions that I just finished up the last few weeks, like the tennis courts that are right there on old cat hole. And some track stuff that it took a little while for people to look at this and then bid on them, or not so much bid, but come up with budget numbers, because it's not a true bid here. Because you're not forcing people to lock in prices during the planning period. But when you look at things like the fire doors, this is something new. And this is something the fire marshal has the capacity to enforce. As part of NFPA 80, we're required to conduct a yearly fire door inspection. And it was the first fire door inspection that your school system had seen since your buildings got their COs. So you know what that means, right?
Yeah.
And you have the middle school, the old high school, you have TIS, those are schools built in the 60s and 70s. And so we have some doors out there that, even from a functional perspective, function, but they could have a hole in it. If there's a door stop on the door, that's a violation, that has to be corrected and so on. So there are lots of things with that. In my opinion, we need to lead by example. And I think, it makes sense to get our doors to a certain level. And once we go through this initial kind of repair phase and get them under control, the fact that we're doing yearly inspections, you're not gonna see the outlay of money that you're seeing right now. That's gonna drastically end up going down. There were some doors during the inspection process, and believe it or not, I took the inspector's report and I inspected every single door. So while you see that capital improvement request, I have a 13-page Excel file listed by doors with every single violation code and what action we've done with every one of those codes on every single door. So, because we've already started to do some repairs that we could do ourselves. So I have to keep track of that and then give that list to the inspector again, who's scheduled to do his next inspection on December 23rd. And we'll get another report again. And so this is not a static process, but we need the initial capital to get these doors to a certain condition that, will allow us to have fewer issues with them. Some of the doors, like a lot of the gym doors around Tolland Middle School, I mean, if you guys have gone through those 88-inch doors or the 86-inch doors height that you walk into the gym, they need to be replaced. They've reached their useful life. That is from 1966. So and when you look at that, it makes no sense for me to spend money to repair some of the doors like that. You want to replace those. So I think that is something that we should really look at. Other school systems, and this started, just so that the whole NFPA 80 thing first focused on healthcare. Okay, it started in the healthcare area, and now they're getting out into schools. So, it's up to your local fire marshal and so on to enforce those things. And it's going to spread out to daycare and other things like that. So that is one item. When I look at the other items listed, in my 10 years here, we have done very little work on the elevators at all. Okay, now we got lucky in the fact that Birch Grove was rebuilt. We got rid of a 2-story building and we reduced that there. But I have to start to look at what it's going to take to, modernize some of those units as they age over time. So you'll see a few things listed there. And there's one that you're gonna see next year, that I didn't put on the plan, so that's what, 2032. Where you're gonna see one for modernizing the one at the, current middle school, where we have to change the cab out and everything. So that's another piece. When we look at other items, like some of the sports items, obviously the town spent some money a couple years back to do crack filling on the tennis courts. And they've reached a point that we're gonna be chasing cracks, and that's what we're gonna do. As the asphalt dries out, gets thinner, gets more brittle, splits. And, they spent, I think it was either 60 or 70 grand of their own money to do crack filling, and then they repainted and lined those. And you saw the picture that is on Dr. Willett's report there. That's a current picture. There's tons of cracks there. So, and these are projects too that I'm bringing forward to you guys, like the sports items that under consideration with the town, we may want to share, like we have had discussions about the turf field and the track and so on. Because it's not just our students using this, that it is public that goes out and actually uses those as well. When we look at other things, like trying to get the mammoth snow blower at the middle school. It's the only remaining school that does not have a tractor kind of item there. The other three of my schools do. So in talking to my custodians, I was looking at items that would function well. And the biggest thing there is because the wind there is drifting snow and some of the very large piles of snow. Granted, Mother Nature has not had some harsh winters the last couple, but trying to give them the equipment that they need to be able to function on that side. In looking at things like the artificially intelligent floor scrubber at the high school, which at first impression for me was difficult to put forth in front of you guys. Because I'm asking you guys to think about spending $88,000 on a floor scrubber that can clean floors by itself, okay? However, I would not put it forth at any other location with our schools except the high school. That doesn't really make sense anywhere else. The high school is very large vestibule, lobby areas, the central hub where the cab connects the whole main entry, very large gym. Your gym's 11,000 square feet. You have a 3,000 square foot mini gym. You got 14,000 square feet between those. You have very wide halls. So when we look at where we've cut custodians in the last 7 years, we've cut 2 custodians from that school. So it is harder, for me as their supervisor to look them in the eyes and say, okay, I demand the same results from you every day, but I've cut a quarter of your staff. Okay. And I have to do that. You know what I mean? So these are things that I thought about that could assist them. Those machines alone cost 30 grand to not even have the AI piece. So, you're paying an additional 50 to have it do its own thing. But it's a stretch for me because it's not gonna make or break my schools, but it will make it cleaner. It will make it look more presentable in the lobby. It will help when I can't find sub-custodial coverage. Because, it's hard to find people to fill in when custodians are sick or on leave or, for whatever reasons. And then I had to also adjust, our HVAC request for the, TIS gym. And then for the middle school, gym and the cap. And a little bit of a backstory with this, Honeywell, from what I was told, in 2012 through 2014, when both the town and the Board of Ed went through the geothermal project, those trying to condition those spaces were effectively ruled out for two reasons. One being just the cost. It was gonna drive the project beyond what they were planning on spending. And two, the size of the wells. You know, the wells would have to be very large for those loops to be able to deal with the needed BTUs in those very large spaces with high ceilings and everything. So, and it wasn't gonna be an efficiency project because you have to find ways to condition that space. So, but as times have changed, we are seeing a lot more rain, a lot more humid days. Those areas are become, you know, over time, we're trending towards hotter times, more lengthier, hotter times, more wet weather. And so we looked at that. What I did, we approached a firm, a consulting firm that has done some projects with the state of Connecticut with some of the indoor air quality grant rounds 1 and 2. And I approached them and I was trying to kind of tweak our figures, have them assess our system, and actually partner with us if we have the chance in a round 3 to actually go after some indoor air quality grant money in round 3. So this was in essence to make our package look as credible and professional as it could be, okay? So when we had them look at those numbers, they came up with about $2.5 million to, which, you know, includes overhead and other things that they would project for us to condition those spaces. And that is one example too, Walt, that, you know, we already have a number out there that we're gonna have to share with town council and say, look, this number has changed, okay? So, and you as a group, and the town council have the capacity to approve it conditionally at some point, if we do get a grant or not. The pros and cons of the entire capital process is there will be times that we do not get grants. Nothing is guaranteed on some grants.
It's also, Pete, just to interject a little, it's kind of tricky to do an approval on an expectation of a grant.
Yep.
It's sometimes better to bond for the whole thing or to put that vote out that you're, you know, if something costs 10 mil, put the vote out for the 10 mil. If you get a grant, you reduce that impact on the town. But if you don't put it out for the 10 mil and we get, you know, we say a certain amount and we don't get the grant, you got to go all the way back to the drawing board.
Sure.
So a lot of times we have to be careful about that. We can't count on getting grants. And Pete's done an amazing job, and across the district, we do get a lot of grants. You know, Pete does some, I do others, but the bottom line is, we try not to, on the town side, I've noticed, you know, if you do budget in this expectation of getting it and you haven't received it, it can create quite a bit of turmoil.
Yeah, and of course, the Office of School Construction, there are different pools of grant money, okay? So what Dr. Will is referring to is an indoor air quality grant that's being reviewed by the Office of School Construction is a competitive grant. So they're gonna look at your proposal versus everybody else and say, look, you know, does Tolland have a case versus Bridgeport or versus, you know, whoever? Unlike your roofs, which you're guaranteed to get a grant. Okay, I'm gonna say this, you will get your grant on your roof at the high school, okay? Now, what the state can say is that based upon our internal bonding structure with our other bonds we have with the state of Connecticut, you may not get your money this year, but I'm gonna push you off to next year, okay? So, but you'll eventually get it. On the other side with like the indoor air quality grant, they may just say no, you know what I mean? So And that's what Walt's referring to, then the project dies, you know, and it just, you know, it's going on. What else? I don't know. So that's, and I just want to summarize the entire capital process. This process for me starts really after Christmas, okay? I reach out to all department heads, principals. Dr. Willett has meetings on Tuesdays. I've had this as one of the topics in his meetings where the department heads go to his office and we talk about what's going on in our respective areas. And I remind them, look, this is your time to come to myself, Dr. Willett, say, these are the needs that we have. That's one of the reasons why the Tolland High School track, the throwing stuff was added. When I talked about shot put and discus, they came to us, you know, so we wanted to add certain things. The TIS school nurse actually approached Dr. Willett on that project that we finished this past summer. So, you know, these are things that we reach out to a bunch of people, we pull their requests. Some of them we can do internally ourselves. Some of them we can find other ways to fund outside of the capital process. But this is a process that is inclusive, you know, and that's what I'm just trying to get my point across, because I asked my own maintenance guys, my custodians, hey, how is the equipment functioning? Are there things, you know, that just aren't working right? You know, it could be a lift, it could be a lot of other things, you know, so, that's how I would summarize it.
A lot of thought goes into it, and like, is it right as one process ends, the new one's starting almost immediately? Pete does a great job in these meetings of really reminding everybody, and we do elicit it from everyone, what their thoughts are about what needs to be updated, fixed, corrected, and so on. I also want to give Mr. Stavros some kudos here. Tennis courts, I can't remember if this came up to you or not, but the benches down there magically got fixed, and the person who magically fixed them was Pete. So people were on social media and I was going, wow, how did these get? It was Pete. So
Well,
Pete lives in this
Kudos to the
community.
girls tennis team because they watched me reset all the bricks that were in there on the walkway to go to those. I ripped them all out, put them all back in. And they're kind of quasi laughing at me like, why is the facilities director doing this? And I just turned to them, I said, look, I can't really sit here and have this look this way, okay? I'm just gonna find the time, you know what I mean? So,
That's the tennis courts there that the town and the schools use, but just, he didn't have to, he went and did that. It's all volition. I just want to give him the kudos there. So it's like soup to nuts. He's, you know, we're all in on this. Great job that he does on that. Almost everything that people have suggested is there. I know we put it to you. That's where we are in the end of the board process, is you decide what goes to the town.
Yeah, so thank you, Pete. Thanks for coming tonight and taking time away from your family to explain what you did, and most importantly, thank you for working tirelessly and being really dedicated to keeping our buildings and our facilities safe for our students and staff. That's obviously our highest priority, so thank you for everything you do there.
Katie, I saw your hand go up. Did you have anything?
Yeah, I guess I just was kind of wondering how this information is delivered to the town council. Do they get this memo with the 3 columns and that's it? And then these, you know, everything to read, or I'm just curious about that. Someone could speak to that a bit.
Yeah, usually I transfer the links that are here. You notice that, and try that again.
Okay,
But the links that are here, everything that is in,
success.
Yeah.
perfect,
Thank you.
everything that's linked here is given to them. And if you take a look at the link at the bottom, everything we've ever sent over the fence to the council is there. So that link at the bottom of this agenda item actually illustrates every capital request going all the way back. So we give them the spreadsheet, we give them this document or a version of it, and we give them all of the backup documents, and that's what they look at. Then they turn it into their own version of those documents in their final.
All right. The reason I ask is it's great, right? It's a lot of information. It's very comprehensive, but I know they receive a lot of other information. So I guess my concern would be that they might not pick up on the fact that, at least one of these projects is ongoing and almost complete. And so, it's critical because it needs to be completed. It would be very odd to sort of not put it in the budget this year and have it be done. So that's just my 2 cents, I guess.
Thank you, Katie. I just had a couple questions. Looking at this list and starting to click on them, the dirty power mitigation for Birch Grove has a value in there, critical, got it, understand that. There's a value of just around 20K, but if I click on it, am I reading it right, that it's already fully funded?
That is correct. We actually moved the water filtration. That was the original project at the high school that you guys used to fund the boiler repair. And we were able to do the boiler repair at a much lower cost than expected, $32,000 versus the 85 that was sitting in that account. And that allowed some reserve money from that project that was actually had been funded through USIF, and not through general fund. It was actually done through energy reserve dollars to say, okay, we're in a position right now where we have changed actually 7 compressors so far since Birch Grove has been built. And, Dana was on the committee and so on when we spent all this time building the school. And I was sitting there and I kept going through this and we keep killing compressors on the VRF units that are on the roof. And those are really the only components that have been failing at that school. And full transparency, I finally started to, reach out to Daikin, who makes these units, Swan, who is one of their vendors that they use to train people on these units and train techs on how to fix these units. And exploring this further, I had phase monitors installed on the school by Eversource. And I'm looking at the fact that my power coming in from our grid to that new school is not 100% clean. And it fluctuates constantly. And unlike your rooftop package units that you see that are protected by variable drives, the VRFs are not protected by drives. And the compressors are essentially eating themselves up through fluctuations in power. And the proposal was, let's do phase monitors on all the VRF banks. We're going to inspect the oil to see if our oil in any of the compressors is dirty because they've been stressed. And if they are, that's where your oil dryers occur. You can see that number for $4,400 or something like that. And we did find one loop that needed to be cleaned out. And the thought is that the way these are going to function is that if my power that's coming into those, will trip the phase monitor that will actually cut off power to the controller. So my unit's going to shut down. Okay, the compressors are going to stop running. And I'm going to get alarms on my management system that I'm gonna have to consider to say, okay, that's a period of time that VRF and that loop is getting dirty power. Okay. And then they're supposed to self-restore and then they'll fire back up again. But this is essentially to protect the units that are there so that my operations budget, and just so you guys know, it costs me about $7,000 every time a compressor goes down. And that's even if it's supplied under warranty. I sometimes have to change all the refrigerant on the loop because it could contaminate the entire loop. I have labor that's not covered under that. Okay. So it cost me $7,000 every time that occurs. So it seemed like good money spent now to protect my operations budget moving forward. and to reduce downtime and hopefully protect the equipment that's there.
And no disagreement, you do a great sell, and I completely agree with what you said. I guess my question is that if we've got it fully funded and ready to go, what is the capital ask?
That is the only reason I gave that to Dr. Willett, is so that you know that that is being funded by another project.
Okay.
It also helps when we toss this over the fence, that everybody understands this the same way. So when this gets moved up to the council, it's a reiteration that what we have been told is that this is being covered through a reallocation of money on the town side. It makes sure that everybody knows this and understands that's happening the same way. So there's no surprises later where, well, wait a minute, where was that supposed to come from? And was that supposed to be bonded, or wasn't the board paying for that?
We're going back to,
We're throwing it over the fence with, this is our understanding, it's being funded by the town, it's being done instead of that filtration, and here's the documentation on it.
so going back to Katie's question as far as, how messy it's over there. Is it clear in all your documentation? I mean, because when I look at this initial list, I think, okay, this 20 grand, roughly 20,349 is dollars that we're requesting from the council to somehow procure for 2026. When I open it up, I see, nope, that through some incredible work from a lot of people, we're figuring it out. We figured out how to pay it. I just want to make sure, Jen, that your spreadsheet over here, that it's clear when we toss this over the fence that we believe this ask has already been funded. It's just, as you say, for information purposes.
Yeah, well, we make it clear, and they look at these docs most carefully. But they already know this on the town side. This is just confirming what we've been told. So the town side people, the staff on the town side know this. So when this comes up, it should be that at that point, the town side staff goes, Lisa Hancock says, this is already done. The other thing is when that spreadsheet, when we're finalizing it, I'll add that comment in the comment field too, on that row. I'll put an asterisk and say this has been funded. Typically, I put it there. So it's in the document and it's in the table, and we'll be saying it when we go to the council, because we usually go to the council when this is getting discussed.
Other thing I wanted to mention, this was a project that concerns me from a facilities point of view.
Right.
So this is one that I hope there is no fence, meaning that the town should recognize that they could have a dirty power scenario with their own buildings as well, okay? Because some of this, from what folks are saying, could be related to the solar farm, feeding the grid, that we have on South River, which is closer to Birch Grove, obviously. And there are residential customers complaining, that's a fact, okay? That have fluctuations in power on that side of the town as well. So there shouldn't be a fence on this project, and that's another reason why I just wanted full transparency, because dirty power is a real thing. Okay.
Well, and isn't it frying the boards too? The newest equipment is actually some of the most vulnerable, because it's got the circuit boards, it's blowing up the circuit boards, which screws up the whole thing. So we're seeing it, I think, on more of the new equipment than even the old stuff, and almost everything you've got circuit boards. So it's a big deal for Tolland overall. It's a really important conversation for Tolland to have. Why it has dirty power and what's going on there, because I think there are some reasons for that, but that's for them to discuss.
Second question. And Dr. Willett, help my memory here. It's been a while, but I know as far as the AC, additional AC units, and I see we've got that as a high priority for 2027, at least on the additions here. Does that still fall? I know a couple of years ago, the state changed some of the rules and laws as far as conditioning of the larger areas in the schools. And we had some concerns in some of our buildings.
Yeah, the temperature standards and all that, they backed a little bit off, but there's still standards of occupancy that we have to be mindful of, because that's not gone away entirely.
So I guess I just want to make sure, with this as a high instead of a critical for 2027, are we making sure we articulate any risk as far as making sure we're in compliance when the times come?
Yeah, we will. We will when we talk to the council about it. We'll talk about it the same way we're talking to you about that. While, you know, it's not an immediate thing, it's something that we really do need to be mindful of because they are looking at that and they are putting language out there. They did not, I think, say an exact temperature now, but that they're not off the radar on that. They're still talking about it. So somewhere along the line, as things get hotter and harder out there, they're probably gonna publish a standard that we have to follow.
Yeah, I see you mentioned Bill 423. You're right up. Okay.
Yeah, that's where it first came out, and they had, do not exceed temps of 85 at the time. And what Dr. Will's referring to is they've relaxed some of those standards, but we do have, kids with 504 plans, you know, that won't be able to go into a gym class or, you know, other things like that.
Well, that's what's catching up now, is that now that that conversation is out there, this is what Mr. Stott was referring to, which we've talked about quite a bit, is that now more of those are being required in IEPs, PPT. So if somebody has temperature regulation issues, this did happen a while back. They might have in their IEP that it needs to be 72 degrees. So that's fine, say in, you know, certain rooms, but if it's not then 72 in the cafeteria, you can't make that child go sit somewhere else. You have to make that inclusive environment work. So that's where this really is becoming also more imminent and more urgent, is that there are more kids that have certain challenges that require a certain kind of temperature regulation. And when they're written in, it really is important for us to be able to offer that.
And I won't burden this with that, but at some point I'd like to understand the process we use to set that priority. You know, what makes something like this with the legal, with the 504s high versus a critical? And like I said, it doesn't have to be here, but at some point if you can just.
Well, I can give you a quick one, just really short version, like the fire doors are code and required, and we have fire marshals standing right there, looking at that, talking about imminence. That makes that super critical. The weather piece, because of the relaxed standards and so on, you know, makes it a case by case, but it's looming. So that's high, but if they're fire doors, there's no chance we can't, you know, that we can actually say no to addressing fire doors. That's an absolute critical thing. So they're both high, but the one that is critical is the one that has absolute imminence. And then the high is just, we better get this worked out soon because it's going to affect us, but it's not affecting us tomorrow in an aggregate sense. That fire door thing, boy, we can't not knowing what's, you know, that there are issues, we cannot not address them.
So do we periodically review the criticality of previous submissions? So and I guess what I'm looking at is if next year we decide that this HVAC thing is critical, we've got kids coming in, we've got the standards go back up, can we change that? Or once
accepted, it's a council side decision. It can be with our input. So for instance, if that gets reasserted in a legislative sense, we'll all be having that conversation, but the action on it will be at the town council level at that. Because they would have to allocate and change where they're funding. This becomes a financial funding decision once it leaves your realm. And once they accept it, where they put it is largely up to them. We would have input on it, but the finance director may decide to bond certain things at a certain span in time so she can group them together for the best financing and et cetera. And all of those decisions are all town council, town side decisions. So that exact scenario would be reevaluated on the town side. We'd come over there waving flags like, oh, watch out, man, this is coming. They just changed this law is happening. That's gotta happen with higher eminence. And that's how that would change once you throw it over the fence.
The thing is too, Tony, is that when I look at certain years that we might want to do a job such as that one, right? I'm not gonna put that in fiscal year 30 because we won't be waiting 5 years probably for round 3 on the indoor air quality grant, right? So I have to choose a date that makes sense. I'm also potentially, if I'm thinking about trying to use a grant, when I would actually have to conduct the work based upon the requirements of executing the grant that we might receive. So that's where fiscal year 27 came into play, because I'm expecting to see round 3 in the next 16 months, maybe, okay? So that's why it went to that year. And as Walt says, it then also becomes a funding decision if you like the project and want to push that project forward. We typically do not change the initial, what I would say, ranking order of projects that have already been approved. And even if they're in fiscal year 30 right now, such as like the cap tables for the high school, I think are in that year right now. Unless we get to a point where, hey, we really need to change the year because something happened, you know what I mean? And then we would, when we do, the nice part about it is because we do this process every year, then we can modify a prior request and try to push it up and maybe trade a project that might be similar in dollar amounts. But it starts to get messy if you do that, so we try not to do that basically. But when I look at a job, it's the ones that are critical are code compliance, life safety issues. And then one step down from that would be, major systems that would close your school if they're not functioning correctly, or prevent you from being able to conduct school business, as opposed to just enhancements or something that, increases your efficiency or something like that, where you can still function, but maybe you're just not as efficient. So that's how I kind of rank them when I'm doing it. And then, people can tweak it. Of course, we now have the 1 through 5 things, so we gotta do that.
I mean, you could rank it yourself as a board if you wanted to. It's just Pete, does a great job of knowing where it falls in the grand scheme of things and criticality. And then obviously there are some things blaring like fire doors and, things like that. That's just gonna always be number 1 and 2. Just as an aside, just to keep in mind, once this goes over the fence, though, it's no longer we can ask for things to be shifted, but it's not our call after that. The town decides what the priorities are. So what you'll see is when we hand this over the fence, our forms and our documents become part of our historical record of what we've asked for. The town produces sheets they're these white sheets. You might have seen them in past budget cycles. And they're for every year and they're dense and there are probably 40 pages of these things because they're ours plus others and they're for the full 5 years. That becomes the gospel after that. And so if we were going to change something or if we're going to ask for something to change, it's no longer part of our structure, it's theirs. So, hey, there's a reason to change this. Hey, something's blowing up. We would say to Lisa and to the town, this is something we need to have moved. And then they'd have to decide whether that's possible or not. I mean, whether that, gets a certain prioritization or not, because they hold the purse strings for the whole thing. They do the bonding, the granting, the allocating, all of that.
That's good to know. Thank you.
And just all the information you provided tonight, I mean, it's got me thinking. So I super appreciate this. Where I'm stuck, I think, is not how the district is handling any of it. I think you've gone above and beyond in how you're managing it. I go back to the root cause here, which is the dirty energy, which is a term, frankly, at 23 years old, I haven't been too familiar with for very long. And so understanding that it's sort of a inconsistent flow of energy, how much responsibility does the solar farm or Eversource, or if they own the solar farm, then just Eversource carry in that? And is there any way of like who's working with them on that? Is that a regular process to be happening, a dirty energy, system to 4 schools?
I think we just have to be careful about conjecturing and venturing into that one. We'll let the council handle that. I
That's
think
my question is who's approaching the issue, I guess is my.
this is
question.
going to be a topic of conversation in the council side.
Gotcha.
And when this comes up, and this in particular, this will also help drive it. We can now show that equipment's actually being damaged by this. So this is a kind of poignant thing to have in there, even though it's already funded, because it drives the conversation. That there are things happening now that are costing the town money, and it could cost the town a lot more money. And then let them talk about and can, you know, come up with the engineer's review on where that is actually happening. For us, we probably don't want to get too much into that.
No,
But it's a good question. I don't mean to criticize the question. I'm saying it's a good question, but let's let them decide what the source of it is.
and that answers my question,
Yeah.
is what, you know, whatever the process is, I'm more so just curious to know that it's being addressed, you know, the root causes are being looked into and whatnot, and so,
But it's also not, that's what I like the fact that Pete's getting in front of this, you know, you're always gonna have some level of dirty energy.
gotcha.
Just how the grid, the nature of how it all works. Dr. Willett said it best also that the downside to progress is the newer, more sensitive equipment is what feels it first.
Right.
Some of that older equipment from the 80s and the 90s, hard to work on, but they're horses. Those things will push through a lot of the stuff. So, you know, the new building came with some things in. So
I'll
it's
just mention something within your own personal homes. You have probably nothing in your house that will notice that except refrigeration,
yeah.
possibly, okay? So watch your freezer and fridge. I'm just saying that from a person that's been down that route, okay? It's cycling constantly on and off, on and off, on and off, you know, and
It's the thing.
you know, so, but just a little bit of a word of advice.
In Ellington, the sewer grinders are the things that take it.
Gotcha.
You don't want those blown up. Trust me.
My goodness.
Trust me.
All right. Any other comments?
That's helpful, thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, just, I'm unfamiliar with these sports, but I guess the discus and shot put area.
Yeah.
What, how many students are in this program that for this, sport?
It's track and field. It's one of the biggest ones.
Okay,
A lot of
I
kids-
just felt not familiar.
No, it's a good question. It tends to be one of the biggest because it covers a myriad of kids' abilities, and a lot of them are attracted to it,
Okay,
you know. So you usually get, I mean, I'm trying to conjecture, but it's quite a few children. It's like, I think 40 or 50 or something. It's a big group.
okay.
And all the cross-country track, all of those.
And a lot of athletes, just to add in here, a lot of athletes who play football, who play basketball, who play soccer. Also use that track and field season as like a conditioning season. Let's get,
Oh,
let's
right.
keep in shape and whatnot. So a lot, when I was in school, I mean, that was the biggest team.
It is, still is.
Is it?
And it is in many places.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Just a lot of that carryover from team to team, so.
That's good.
All right. Moving on, we have no old business. Mr. Stevigan, thank you for coming in, as always, for the information.
Thank you.
You
Thank you
guys
so
need
much.
my presents for any of
I
those,
think-
or you good?
You're welcome to stay, however.
Well,
Ready to go.
it's hard to mingle with the crowd.
Chit chat.
We're never gonna tell you you're not welcome.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Dr. Willett, moving on to board action. Item N1, policy 4050,
Right, so-
employment and student teacher check.
We had looked at this last time, you know, again, you know, the future will just be more bold things, but. This was reviewed, and so it's your second review, just as. You know, standard reminder that it's from Shipman and Goodwin as a boilerplate. So usually we don't mess with their language on things like this. There are some things that are discretionary. But other ones like this, they're strictly what is happening in law, and they want us to be in the right place on that. So we just overlay. We don't mess with any of the words or strike or anything, we just overlay usually.
And just as an aside, you know, we talked about, I know the last time when we went through these, we talked about different ways of articulating some of those changes. Where it's easier to read, that has not been forgotten. We simply decided to do it with the new ones coming out and let these two that were already past our first read just finish out. So that's why you're not seeing it here yet.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
And any comments on 4050?
I was good with it when we reviewed it in policy, so I'm happy to propose a motion to accept the revised policy 4050 employment and student teacher checks as presented in the August 28th, 2024 meeting.
Second. Sorry.
You have a comment, Dr.?
No, perfect, it's fine. You can update the data or not, because it was presented in both meetings, so it's perfect.
2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's the same.
I was gonna say, I'm okay with it.
Other than Dr. Willett on the date, any comment? All right. Jaden,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
Jen,
Bye.
Dana. Okay. Dana. Oh, Dana. Katie,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
and one last time, Dana.
I'm sorry, I just signed right back in. What's the vote? I'm sorry.
40-50. Second read acceptance.
Oh, yes, then I.
Thank you. Approved, Dr. Willett.
Great, thank you.
And Dana, good job. Into policy 4080, family medical leave.
Similar, again, it's an overlay because it's the language straight from Shipman, the model language. And it has to do with FMLA, something that we do encounter a lot as an employing organization of over 409 people that happens. So this is boilerplate from them and usually recommended that we take their boilerplate.
Comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the policy changes.
Motion to accept the revised policy 4080 family medical leave as presented in the August 28th, 2024 meeting.
Second,
Second.
any comments or discussion? All right, hearing none. Jaden,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
Jen.
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Policy is approved. Good job to the policy committee, Dr. Willett, as always, thank you. All right, public participation, comments must be limited to items on the agenda. If you're in the room, feel free to raise your hand or step up. Online, raise your virtual hand. One more time, anybody that would like to speak during public participation, please make your presence known. That you said. Points of information, would anybody from the board like to speak? And that being said, we have no information under future. Dr. Willett, going forward, if we could put the any instructional rounds as those are scheduled in there.
Sure. Yeah, you can just put those in the dashboard. I'll stick them right in here too.
Perfect. Thank you. And I will entertain a motion for adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Brian, you can have it.
Discussion. All right, Jaden.
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
Jen.
Aye.
Dana.
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
As always, thank you all. Have a wonderful night. Hug your children.